Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, how you doing? How you doing? All right. Today's Monday, September 26th, 2022. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer, and Unex Networks, Race Hobbs. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. Tonight, yeah, Bombshell week. Tonight, very special guest, Grant Cameron, kicks off our Bombshell Wilson Davis week here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, our guest is me. Tomorrow night, I'm going to do a 2.5-hour deep dive into the Wilson Davis documents, the associated notes that have been revealed to the public this week. That happened throughout the day today, so I'm not the first to release the documents or anything like that. It's been going on all over the net today. So there you go. You know, it's not any type of exclusive because everybody has them. But tomorrow night, I'm going to go through all of it. I'm going to go through the Wilson Davis document and with my thoughts and, of course, the notes that tie into all of this. It's pretty extraordinary. It's a pretty extraordinary week for the UFO community. It's absolutely amazing. And then following up with our Bombshell week will be Wednesday night. Richard Dolan is here for Wilson Davis Night 3. And a couple of notes about Grant and Richard and myself. I'll talk more about this in just a bit, but when everything started to bust loose, oh man, I'm trying to think, that was like 3 years ago. I had a call with Richard that night that we got the Wilson Davis document sent to us, and we knew then that they were extraordinary. And reading through them, Richard and I that night went through page for page, going through everything and just catching things. But there was a name in there that I wasn't familiar with, and that was Oak Shannon. Richard knew who Oak Shannon was, and of course, so did Grant Cameron. I did not. And today, I think we all know, Project Unity did an interview with Oak Shannon that came out on the net a couple of days ago. I watched that interview. I watched it a fourth time. So 4 times I've watched it. I watched it again today. Wow. I mean, just the whole thing has come full circle. And it's very exciting for our UFO community. It's a big week here on Fade to Black. So tonight, The man that's been at the center of all of this is Grant Cameron. And Grant will be with us tonight. He did a live stream earlier today with Nicole Sakic. I was there for that. It was just amazing. And whew, Grant, that's all I have to say. Grant Cameron. And very excited that he is on with us tonight. It's very important that not only when we do a week on the show about something, and in this case it's Wilson Davis, it's very important to me and to the community that Grant is up first. He's the leadoff batter because he's been at the center of this from the very beginning. And I'll talk more about this in just a bit. And then on Thursday night this week, it is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Coming up, I will be hosting and emceeing the Conscious Life Expo this February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton. Tickets and info are at consciouslifeexpo.com. Coming up right after that, April 7th through the 14th, 2023, I will be hosting and presenting on the Hidden Secrets Seminar at Sea Cruise with Scott Walter, Adam Apollo, Nick Pope, Brad Olson, and Vivian Chavez, and a bunch of other great speakers and guests. And the links for everything are below. Come in and go on a cruise with me. Let's go down to Mexico. What do you say? All right. Also, over the weekend, I got a new camera, added some lights, and worked on the studio this weekend. And I did an impromptu live stream testing the camera just to see what everybody's thoughts were, and I needed feedback. And so I had to go back and adjust everything. But I think it looks pretty good, and I'll continue to dial it in. How's it look? See? Now it's high def. You can see. Now I got to shave every day. Man, I got to brush my teeth. I got to comb my hair. I got to wear a clean shirt. It's too perfect. But it's all for you guys, okay? I just want you to have the best thing possible. And hopefully you guys agree that the camera was worth it, okay? And there you go. It's a Elgato face cam. That's what it is. Okay, get your free membership to the UNX Network at unxnetwork.com. You'll receive their monthly newsletter. You're going to get blog accesses. You're going to get event notices, free digital copy of their quarterly magazine. All you have to do is go to unxnetwork.com. Go to the homepage. It's right there. Membership sign up. It's all completely free. And right now, heading into the winter months, Eden Pure has extended their 3-pack special. That's right, 3-pack special on the Thunderstorm. And a couple. Can I say something? I know that I share a lot of personal information sometimes, and I probably shouldn't let all of that go. But I've been working out, and 2 weeks ago it cooled down here. I thought winter is here, right? Winter is coming. And it cooled down. And then it heated back up this week. And I got to tell you, I stink. I mean, they're working out. And it smells, and I got to tell you, the only thing that gets rid of it is this right here. I'm not spraying stuff in my house. I burn sage. I do. I sage the house all the time. It's the Eden Pure Thunderstorm that makes my house perfect. It's AC. It's got a USB on the side. It kills germs. It kills viruses. And it'll just make your house smell great. And they have a 3-pack special right now. Three. So this is my thing. Bedroom, kitchen, living room. That's where you start. Or bedroom, kitchen, car. Right? That's what you do. It's got a USB. You can do whatever you want with it. So there you go. 3-pack special. Promo code FADER3 right now. Save $200 in free shipping. Scroll down, click, head over. You forget the promo code, what do? Just click on my name on the bottom. It's right there, Jimmy Church. Click on that, and everything is done. All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Yeah, follow me. Follow me. Man, I love coffee. Did you guys know I love coffee? What a crazy news day today. Let's start with this. The Artemis 1 space launch system and its rocket will be pulled down from the launch pad in Florida and rolled back to the vehicle assembly building tonight due to Hurricane Ian. The massive rocket will begin the rollback process later this evening at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, further delaying the anticipated mission. There's already been 2 delays. This is now the 3rd. No launch dates have been announced yet, but as you know, I'm completely on top of this. Other big news today, Coca-Cola in the news, because Coca-Cola products ranging from Diet Coke and Sprite to Powerade and Monster energy drinks will replace its plastic rings, on the 6-packs, the 4-packs, with a fiber-based paper packaging. The Coca-Cola estimates that it will help eliminate 75,000 pounds of plastic each year. The paper-based packaging, designed by Graphic Packaging International, is small, compact, and easy to recycle. And that's big news, at least to me. That's big news. Big news for the world. Now, check this out. Mayans in the news. Toxic levels of mercury, a pollutant commonly associated with waste of modern industry, have been uncovered in Mayan archaeological sites. Long before conquistadors from far-off lands introduced the decay of war and disease, Maya cultures were dusting the soils of their urban centers with the heavy metal mercury. The element's levels are so great in some areas, researchers are being advised to gear up to save their health. Together with a team of researchers from the U.S. and the U.K., Duncan Cook of Australian Catholic University revealed data sets collected from 10 classic period Maya dig sites and their surrounds that included environmental measurements of mercury levels. A comparison of readings from across the region identified 7 of the sites reported at least one area contaminated with a concentration of mercury that exceeds or equals modern benchmarks for toxic levels. Absolutely incredible. All right, now check this out. Plants are older than we're told. Now listen to this. The oldest green algae preserved in 3 dimensions may hint that plants originated earlier than previously believed. The fossils are older than 541 million years. This was at the cusp of the Cambrian period, 541 million to 485 million years ago, when life suddenly diversified in a flash known as the Cambrian explosion. The fossils are tiny, only a half a millimeter in diameter, but are preserved in exquisite detail, down to the bumpy tubular structures that line their outer layers and the masses of delicate filaments that make up their core. They come from the Shanxi province in central China. Now, researchers, China's back in the news, so here you go. I hope you're ready for this. Researchers in China have cloned a wild Arctic wolf, and they're hoping the controversial genetic technology can now be used to help save other species under threat as the world edges toward an extinction crisis. Today, the Beijing-based company Sinogene Biotechnology unveiled the female wolf clone named Maya by scientists marking 100 days since she was born back on June 10th. Maya, a gray-brown pup with a bushy tail, is in healthy condition, and they showed videos of Maya playing and resting. That's crazy. A Florida man Although this is not a funny news story, but it does start off with a Florida man. So here we go. A Florida man, an HOA president, already facing charges for allegedly keeping a hidden camera inside the master bedroom of a Palm Coast condo he was caring for, faces additional charges after a third victim was recorded on camera in a different condo. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office arrested Robert W. Orr for the second time today on an additional 5 charges, including 3 counts of video voyeurism and 2 counts of unlawful use of a two-way communications device. Orr, who's 59 years old, was arrested earlier this month on 4 counts of video voyeurism after a woman and a man found a USB camera hidden inside an indoor flower pot in the master bedroom of the condo they were renting that he was maintaining and managing. Deputies said that some of the images date back to 2018. So now they are contacting, and I'm quoting here, dozens of people who have also rented the condos over the last 4 years. A Florida man. Let's get this show cracking on this day in history. 1969. One of the greatest days in history. The Brady Bunch premieres on ABC. ABC, who canceled the series 5 years later. The last original episode aired on August 30th, 1974. However, the show became a massive hit in rerun syndication. And I got to tell you, I think probably I've seen every episode of the Brady Bunch at least 5 times. It's a fact. Here's a fader fact for you, though. It's a good one. They're all good. I say that every night. It's a good one. They're all good. It's a good one. They're all good. Here's your fader fact. In the 13th century, Pope Gregory IV declared war on cats. That's right. He declared war on cats because he believed they were instruments of Satan. And that is your fader fact. Yeah. Tonight, very special guest, Grant Cameron. Grant Cameron is here kicking off the Wilson Davis week here on Fade to Black, Bombshell week. Tomorrow night, our guest is me. I'm going to take you on a 2.5-hour deep dive into the Wilson Davis documents and the notes of Oak Shannon and others that have also been revealed this week to the public. It's a huge week for the UFO community. And to follow up and close out Bombshell week, Wilson Davis week, Richard Dolan is here on Wednesday for night 3. Thursday night is another fader night with open lines all night long. So there you go. All right. Now it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee for real. rivermoonwellness.com. I like my coffee, Doc. But, Dad, it's smoky. Sarah Ann, that's messed up. About Pope Gregory IV. That's a good gift. Thank you. Hey, Sarah Ann, that's going to get a like right now. Just like that. rivermoonwellness.com. The links are below. Promo code F2B Blend. It's the best coffee in the world. It is. It's just, there's a lot of good coffee out there, but there's only the best, and that's River Moon Fade to Black Blend. And Game Changer Blend, too. All right. You like this camera? It's big. my other cameras that I have here, right, are small. I posted pictures yesterday, or was it today? Yesterday. And look at the top of my monitors. You'll see, the cameras. And I have other cameras that aren't up here all the time. They're on stands and stuff, right? Okay, so anyway, but you can see the Elgato in the middle. You see what I'm talking about, man? Thing's big. It's big. It's big. So I had to lower the monitors because the camera, it was like, so I lowered. I kind of like it, though. I like what's going on. All right. F2B blank. Go to the Amazon store. You know what I did today? Before I get into what I want to talk about. Today, no, it was yesterday. I don't want to fib. I want to be straight. Yesterday, I sent Fade to Black blend to somebody. They know who they are. And, a little thank you. And I've got to send it through the Amazon store. That's right. I pay for it myself. Click. Went to Amazon, and it's right there. Amazon's Choice Fade to Black blend. I was like, wow, how cool is that? Click, send. That's right. Pay for it myself. That's it, man. The growls. Oh, my God. What the? I don't see anything. Did you guys hear that? See, here's the thing. There's a noise gate. See, and you can hear the noise gate shut down. Listen. Right? See how it goes silent? The noise gate shuts down the microphone. You hear it go. Right? You hear that? So if it's coming through with the noise gate, I don't know what to say. Man. Okay. All right. I gotta focus. That was a trip. I swear. I'm hearing things. I'm like freaking myself out. All right. Today, the DART mission was a success. I watched the live stream right after Grant and Nicole did their live stream, and I was working and getting stuff done, and I had the DART mission running in the background. Finally, it was like 15 minutes away, and I'm just sitting there watching it with that music that was playing. Were you guys listening to that? Well, anyway, we are truly living in a science fiction movie. Watching the DART, this was straight out of any movie that you can imagine. And we watched that live. Was that the most incredible? And when you saw the asteroid off in the distance, right? And it's a little dot, and it's like, how is this possible? Right? And there it is. And what? Did you guys freak out at what the asteroid looked like? It looked like a coronavirus. It was all spiky and stuff. How crazy was that? To think that technology today, and all of our hopes and dreams about being able to fly out to an asteroid and blow it up or divert its path and save Earth, right? That's science fiction. Science fiction will never get there. No way. But it's a good movie, right? I'll watch Bruce Willis do that. That's a good movie. It happened today. I couldn't believe it. The thoughts going through my mind as that asteroid was, and I know your mind was in the same place mine was. You're watching that thing come up, and you're like, man, this is a movie, but it's real. Right? It was nuts. And I really enjoyed it. And I can't say enough for that. And then going on at the same time, we have the latest revelations in the UFO community. Things are really popping at the moment. And the Wilson Davis document, when that thing surfaced, And my comment back then, I've always felt that the document was real. Well, I know that the document is real. I'm talking about the conversation that happened in the back of a U.S. government Crown Vic behind the EG&G building in Las Vegas next to the McCarran Airport with the Janet aircraft taking off, going to Area 51. And you picture this conversation going down between Admiral Wilson and Eric Davis about UFOs. And you read through that, and it's just like a movie script. You know, it's incredible. And I always felt that the conversation happened. It was too detailed. There was just things about it. I always felt that way about it. I've done many shows, right, with Project Unity and this conversation with Oak Shannon and the revelation of the notes that are out there. And, the notes, there's two sections of the notes, which I have tonight. You'll see them. That is this all starting to support not only the Wilson Davis document, but the shenanigans that have been going on inside of not only our government and certain circles inside of the government, but companies and corporations that are looking to develop this technology and research and development. Well, that was the basis of the Wilson Davis document, and that is, of course, is the subject of the notes that are out. I don't know how many pages I have here. I have two sections of it. I think there's 28 and 18, whatever that adds up to. But you look at this, and that's what's going on. And what a strange day where I spent the day reading these notes, going back over the Wilson Davis documents, knowing what the subject was tonight, Grant Cameron being on the show, and the DART mission happening. And I'm watching that, and I'm just like, I'm living the future that I was hoping I would live. And I'm experiencing it right now. It's a very important week here on Fade to Black. We're all doing this together. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron is with us. He will be up right after this short break. I'll be right back with Grant Cameron Bombshell Week, Night 1. On the Game Changer and Unix Networks, Race Hobbs. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and I'll be right back with Grant Cameron. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UnXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron kicking off Bombshell Week, Night 1. We're going to discuss all of the recent bombshells around the Wilson Davis document and Oak Shannon. This is Night 1 of our Wilson Davis Week here on Fade to Black. Grant has been a UFO researcher since 1975, and he was recognized as both the Leeds Conference International Researcher of the Year and the UFO Congress Researcher of the Year. He's a world-renowned expert on UFOs, conspiracies, government cover-ups, and has spent decades watching and chronicling developments around the extraterrestrial contact. He is the author of Charlie Red Star. His website is beyondpresidentialufo.com. The links are below, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, kicking off Night 1 of Grant Cameron Week here on Fade to Black. Mr. Grant Cameron. Grant, how you doing, my man?
Great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on.
Busy day for you, my friend. I feel like we've been talking all day.
It's like it reminded me. I reminded Nicole of this earlier today. If you've ever seen the comedy skit done by, now I'm going to forget his name, Bill Hicks. The roller coaster, you ever seen the one about the life of the roller coaster? You get on, you go up and down, around and around, and it makes lots of noise, and you get off, and once you're off, you go, oh, it was just a ride. That's what it was like. Today was a roller coaster, man, up and down.
Yeah, and it started to heat up. Now here, Grant, let me, I'm just going to go back to some historical context, if I may, some personal historical context between the two of us.
Yeah.
And you had 3 years ago, you came up to me at a conference and you said, Jimmy, this is my attorney. And I was like, oh, I'm getting served, right? So anyway, you come up and you say, "This is my attorney." I had the lawyer up, and I said, "What's going on?" And you were shaking, and I was like, "Grant, what's happening?" He said, "I've got these documents, man, and we're going to talk about it. I need a couple of weeks to digest it, but we're going to figure this out, and I'll let you know." I was like, "What's going on, Grant?" Well, at that time, around that time, Richard Dolan and I receive the now infamous famous email with the documents in it. I called, and you remember all of this so well. I called Richard, going, "Dude," and I read through the documents page for page with Richard, and we made mental notes, and we continued the next day. But then I called you, and I said, "Dude, did you send this to me?" You said no. And I said, is this the doc? Yes, I believe at the time, and this is for the audience so they understand, you were being very evasive on purpose, right? And you were like, "Jimmy, I don't know if you're looking at is the documents that I'm talking about." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if you're talking about what I'm talking about, but I think we're talking about the same thing, right?" I think we are. And then everything broke loose from that first night. I saw your email to Oak Shannon with the question: "Did you have any idea when you were a kid, right?
Yeah,
that you would have documents that would now be part of the congressional record?" Well, I'm going to pose the same question to you, Grant. Did you feel at that time, even though you were shaking, that it would have the historical importance that it does today and what is going on with the UFO community?
I thought it would have tremendous significance. It was the document, the only document I've ever seen that I was absolutely determined I have to get this document, no matter what it takes to get this document, because it was shown to me by James Rigney on an iPad, and he walked off in the casino. We were in Laughlin. And when I saw Oak Shannon's name and Eric Davis's name, I knew it was a real document. I knew this is for real. I read just part of the first page, and then I started to think, how do I get this document? I wonder if I can photograph this thing before he comes back so I can at least have this thing. I didn't realize it was 15 pages. When I realized, I thought it was 2 pages. So when James sent it to me shortly after this November conference, that's when I started to shake. I went, "Oh my God." And then I talked to the attorney,
Michael
Hall. So I contacted Michael Hall in the beginning of January, and I said, "Michael, I got to talk to you about something." And then I said, "Oh, that's stupid. Why did I talk to him like this?" I was really scared because I was afraid of what was going to happen. And then when I finally got a hold of Michael, he came back, and then I said to him, "I got a question. Could I get sued? Could they sue me for this?" He said, "Yeah, they could." And I went, "They could?" And then he said, "Well, no, but you can get sued for anything." And then I'm saying, like, I know all these guys. I don't know what to do with this document. And that was the whole idea that I eventually put them through Chase Williams, who had come to me. And then I decided I couldn't put them on myself because I knew all these guys and I didn't want to sort of cut their throats. So then I said, well, I will, I'm a disclosure guy, so anybody wants to see the document, because I was telling people, no, you can't see the document. People like James Ian Dolly asked me, "Can I see the document?" I said, "No, you can't see the document." And then I'm thinking, what's the heck? I'm a disclosure guy. What's the deal? So next time Chase Williams said, "Can I see the document?" I said, "Sure, you want to see the document?" And I sent it to him. And then he said, "Well, why don't you release this?" And I said, "Well, because I know all these guys." And then he said, "Leave it with me." And then he phoned me from an elevator. I still remember he was in Chicago. He said he was traveling. He was in Chicago. He said, "I'm in an elevator in Chicago. You know those documents you gave me?" And I said, "Yeah, I think they just went on the internet." But then they sat on the internet for 4 months. And we were trying to figure out, like, is people stupid? Why don't they pick this up? What do we do? And James Rigney was bugging me. And I said, "James, my job, you give me my job was to get these things out. I did it. I got them on the internet. I can't do any more for you. You got to figure it out for yourself." And then you guys discovered the document, and that's when it sort of went viral. And so I had always said, when this document becomes public, it's over. This is going to be disclosure. But I didn't realize it would be read into Congress and that this would basically be, it looks like it's almost going to be a blueprint for where they go because it's got the names. And I guess they're investigating who these people are and all this kind of stuff. And there's this immunity for witnesses. So if all the witnesses in the Wilson document come forward and get immunity, I mean, it's what I said originally. It's game over. When I saw the document, that's what I thought. This is game over. I mean, if this document ever gets out, but the thing was, how do you get it out? Because I knew the people and I knew what the cost would be because I talked to Eric Davis before and I knew they talked about it was called intelligence blowback. There's this story that's told. I come to you, Jimmy, and I say, Jimmy, do you know the 12 guys that run the whole UFO show? And you say, yeah, I know who they are. And then I say to you, okay, Jimmy, why didn't you make the names public? And then the answer is because you go to the New York Times, they would print an article and I'd have to deny it and nobody would ever talk to me again. And that's why a lot of these guys, I believe, are very secret because they're trying to figure it out as well. And they're trying to get people above them to tell them what's going on. And the minute they leak something like I did, then nobody talks to you anymore. So when I had the document, you guys discovered it later, but Giuliano Marinkovic had it. Danny Silva had it. James Ziondoli had it. And I remember James phoning me and he said, you talked to me about that document in January. And I said, yeah. And he said, I think it just went on the internet. And I said, oh, really? And he said, how many pages is it? And he said, it's 15 pages. And I said, yeah, it sounds like the document. I didn't want to play. And then he said, Danny Silva's got it and he may release it. I said, you tell Danny Silva this. If you release this document, you will be the most famous person probably in history, but nobody will ever talk to you again. And that was the warning. And then Danny Silva hang on to it. So there was a lot of people had the document, but nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to sort of put it out there. And so it sat on the internet for quite a while before Richard and you finally, and it was being sent by James, because James had come to me and said, well, nobody's reading it. What are we going to do? And I said, well, James, this is your game. You don't know all these guys. You can release it. So we showed him how to set up the account, whatever that account was, where you nobody knows who you are. So he set up the account and he started to send it to people. So he sent it to you and he sent it to Richard and he sent it to James Fox and he sent it to all these people. I said, this is your job. You can send it out. So you got it from James Rigney. He was doing the job of putting it out because nobody was reading it. It was on the internet. Nobody was picking up on it.
Yeah, that what was weird. And we'll jump forward in just a bit. But what was weird was there was a mention of Stephen Greer, in the document about the Pentagon meeting. And so the next day after I got it, I called Greer and I said, I've got this document. He didn't, Greer, right? The document king. Yeah. He didn't know what I was talking about. I said, your name is in it. And so I sent it to Greer. The document, it didn't spread. You're absolutely right. It was pretty strange. It was pretty strange.
Richard got it. It started to move. When Richard made mention of it, and he, of course, phoned some of the people that were in the document and said, okay, I got this document, and he got some confirmations. I knew that he was on your show, and I mentioned this before. Yeah. I remember at one point you had interviewed Richard in December, I think it was December the 18th or 19th of the year before the document broke. 2
pages.
Yeah, and that's what he said. And James Rigney phoned me from Australia and he said, did you give the document to Dolan? I said, no, I didn't give the document to Dolan. He said, well, he's talking about it. I said, what do you mean he's talking about it? He's on Jimmy Church's show. He's talking about the document. So I went and I listened. I went, he is talking about the document. I'm thinking, maybe I did give him the document. How does he know? And then he said it was the 2 pages. And that is one of the most confirming parts of the story, was that Richard was live on the air before we leaked the document. And he was saying that he'd seen 2 pages of this document, and he describes the Wilson document. There's no doubt.
And he had it for a long time, those 2 pages.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago he'd seen it. Yeah, 10
years. 10 years. It would have been 13 years ago when he was on the show. He said 10 years at that point. And I remember I canceled all of my plans for Coast that week, and I did the Wilson Davis document that Friday night. Yeah. And you're right. Right after that, it just completely took off. Well, okay, so here's the thing. I had never heard of Oak Shannon. And but when Richard and I were talking that first night on the phone, and you as well, Richard zeroed in on Oak Shannon, And I at the time I didn't know. Was and Oak Shannon you had mentioned to me prior, and I didn't realize that Oak was who he was in the center of all of this. But having him being part of the Wilson Davis document, like he is, and then of course this interview with Project Unity, which was a fantastic interview, just incredible. But to have somebody come forward from this document and speak about it, that's extraordinary in of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. And then that was what was significant to me when I saw the first page of the document and I saw Oak Shannon's name and Eric Davis's name. I knew for a fact that I was probably one of the few people in the world who knew Oak Shannon was. And Oak Shannon is not a major player. So that may be why nobody knows who he is. So he was not like, if you take a look at the list in this new Oak Shannon notes, you'll see a lot of the Avery names, the old boys that keep, recycling over and over again. But Oak Shannon was just a guy who was there because he worked at Los Alamos National Labs. And that's where John Alexander worked. And they were both there at the same time. And John was running this what they used to call the UFO working group. And Oak Shannon was brought in, but Oak Shannon was not a major figure. He was not a UFO guy. He described to Project Unity the fact that he and his friend were working on this 5-dimensional universe theory and stuff like that. But he was not a UFO guy. He'd had a UFO sighting later on, but he was not the UFO guy. He was not in the crowd with Put Off and Green and all those guys. He was just sort of on the outside, and he knew Eric Davis, and that's what I knew. So I knew he knew Eric Davis, and so I knew that this was the real, and that's why I immediately knew this was the real deal document. And it turned out it was significant in that Oak Shannon was the guy that put the whole thing together. So his only connection to this whole thing was that Wilson was given an opportunity to talk to Davis, and he was sort of screening him to see whether he was going to talk to him. And that's when he asked Oak Shannon, "Do you know this Eric Davis guy? What do you think of him? Oh, he's reliable. You can keep his mouth shut, all this kind of stuff." And that's why Wilson talked to Eric Davis. So that's the role that Oak Shannon played, but he was not really involved in anything. He was just happened to be involved in this advanced physics theoretical working group from 1985 with John Alexander and all these 20 guys with top secret special compartmental access clearances who talked about UFOs and were trying to get funding, the same as what's going on now, where they're trying to get the funding through Congress. All this in 1985 thing that we're going to talk about was exactly the same thing. They were trying to get money out of Congress. They were trying to build a program. They were trying to get evidence to prove that UFOs should be studied, and it ended up falling flat. John Alexander couldn't get any money, and so Oak was involved, but he was not a major player as far as I know. He doesn't give any presentations. He doesn't say anything in the UFO. You see the notes. He doesn't really talk about anything. He's just taking notes, and he takes 20. I think it's 26 pages. So there's 24 pages of notes. Then there's the cover page, and there's the page of the diagram of how to get to this skiff. They were in a skiff in Virginia, in a compartmentalized facility in Virginia. So that was his role, but not a major role. But that was the whole thing. Is I knew who he was because Eric Davis had given me the notes that we're going to talk about tonight. And Oak Shannon, as you heard with Project Unity, had a heart attack. And he had died 4 or 5 times on the table. And so this is about the same time I was dealing with Eric Davis and the NIDS guys. And this was about the same time as the Wilson thing. It was about 2001, 2002. If you go back and see, when did Eric Davis get laid off from NIDS? That's when I was dealing with him because he was very upset. He'd been the first guy to get laid off from NIDS. He didn't have a job. He had kids and a family, and he was trying to find a job. And he eventually gets a job with the Air Force doing this gravity control thing or whatever it was with the Air Force, cloaking and all this kind of stuff. And so that's when I talked to him. It was about that time. And he basically told me that Oak was very sick and that he might not make it. And he gave me the documents and he said, if Oak passes away, you can put these documents on the internet. And so that was my connection. So I knew Oak Shannon was. I knew that he had a very close connection with Eric Davis. And I knew that this was significant. This was not a fake document because who would have faked it? They would have had to know about Oak Shannon. And I just maintained nobody would know who Oak Shannon was. They would know Eric Davis, but not Oak Shannon.
So you just mentioned something. I know you've mentioned it in the past, but let's circle back to this. The original 28 pages of notes you got from Eric Davis.
Correct.
And these notes are from 1985. So there shouldn't be. I don't think there's any classification on the notes. They're just notes. There's not a cover page. The first page that you were referring to was the visitor passes, right, that were issued, and who was going to have access, and the requirements for that, which was a top secret access, signals access to attend this meeting. That's what that page is. So the notes themselves aren't classified. And if it's 1985, which is almost 40 years ago now, they're public interest and public domain at this point, right? There's no restriction to releasing into the the public domain.
Yeah. And to me, it was, I would have held these notes forever. I leaked little bits of them. And I've always said I had Oak Shannon's notes. I've said that numerous times.
Right.
But the thing was that when Oak Shannon went public, then I went, well, what am I doing holding these notes for? That's why I decided I was going to come public. And that's when Oak Shannon came to me and said, well, I'd like to see the documents before. I'm not going to stop you from releasing them, but I'd like to know what's coming. Can I see them? And I gave him copies. I said, that's fine. I gave him copies, and he came back and basically said, I don't even remember this. Like, what is this thing? It doesn't, like, to him, the notes didn't really make any sense. And he didn't even remember what the thing was. And I said, well, it was this thing with John Alexander, your friend John, and they were running this UFO thing. And I got him from Eric Davis. And then this morning, then he sort of said he didn't know who I was, but you remember clearly that he was asked by Project Unity, do you know who Grant Cameron is? And he said, well, yeah, the name's familiar. So he knew who I was. And that's the thing. I figured, like, I'm not a secrecy guy. I mean, I just get so annoyed by this whole deal of secrets. Everybody's got secrets. Everybody's got non-disclosure agreements. And it's like, and you get down to it. It's like, I always refer to, like, in the present Congress situation, I say, they're doing all this stuff in Congress. What has the public been told? Nothing. Absolutely not a damn thing. Even the 144 sightings, they won't even tell you what these sightings are. And that's the thing. It's being sucked up into the black world. And to me, I mean, I'm getting old. My health is not as good as it was. And I've just had tired of playing the games. And so to me, I figured, like, I'm not going to hold these notes. I could be dead in the next couple of years. And what are we holding these Oak Shannon notes? That's when I said, okay, he's gone public. And now I'm going to go public with these notes that I've got, because I think they're very interesting when you look at them. They described this very interesting thing that the New York Times actually wrote a book on called Out There. And Howard Bloom wrote a book, and then it was called the UFO Working Group. And he said he had been given a source from the NSA, had given it to him, which, if you look in the notes, is McConnell. I think his name is McConnell, Hal McConnell from National Security Agency. And they wrote a whole book on this thing, and they had people all fake names and stuff like that. And John was sort of denying that the thing existed. And I first showed the very first of that first page. I showed the top secret thing and what it was called, the Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group. I showed it at first. This is maybe in 2003, 2004 at Eureka Springs. And I remember I put it on there and stated that I had this. And then John suddenly started to come forward and describe the Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group. And he said there was no notes. And then I said, well, I've got Oak Shannon's notes. And then, as I recall, John then started saying, well, nobody's supposed to have notes. And yet Melinda Leslie has a copy of Ed Houck's notes. Now, his aren't as extensive as these.
Which I have here too as well. Yeah, but they cross over.
Oh yeah,
they match. This is. We're going to take a break right here, but I'm going to just say this as a matter of fact. We have what's going on with the Department of Defense and Congress and the House of Representatives, and what's going on over there. Okay, what is happening right now? The research of the UFO community. The Wilson Davis docs, Oak Shannon, Project Unity, your notes, Melinda Leslie, and others. this is a bigger bombshell than anything. We're doing better research than the House of Representatives or anybody that's giving them information or anything that's going on in the Department of Defense, the Gillibrand Amendment, all of that stuff, which is cool. It pales in comparison to the efforts of the members of the UFO community, yourself, Melinda Leslie, huge props, right? Huge props. And the Wilson Davis document and how we're moving forward. And this is a really, really big deal, Grant. Huge moment for this community.
Yeah, especially if it's true that what I heard was that they are basing their investigation on the Wilson document. I mean, it's like we've given them the sort of the trail to follow to uncover this thing.
Yeah, giving them the roadmap. Yeah. And one last comment before we get to the break. Oak Shannon, and again, the Project Unity interview was monumental. It was amazing. It was so good. But Oak's recollection and the way that he said, I know everybody that's in that document, talking about Wilson Davis, and the way that he presented it, it was to me, it had the same flavor. It was identical to the presentation in Wilson and in Eric Davis notes.
Yeah. And we have the situation where, and you know this, that Oak Shannon is sort of like, how's this going to play out? I really didn't want to be a part of this. He did the interview, but he figured maybe it was the one interview. And now he's in this situation where he's sort of become the focus of this thing. And he doesn't want to really be a UFO guy. He doesn't want to deal with this stuff.
I think I liked his comment about the fantail, right? When he was out on, out on the ship in the Pacific and he was up on, and somebody came up, dude, we're a UFO in the back. and so he goes out, it was a red and blue, flickering, red and green flickering star off in the distance. Yeah. But he brought that up, and I thought it was a great point that A, you can misunderstand things, but second, it also opens up your eyes. Yeah. And that was his introduction into the world of UFOs, and he wanted to see what was going on. So I thought that was pretty good. Excellent interview with Project Unity. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only Grant Cameron. At the center once again. It's Grant Cameron Week here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Grant after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pier Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pier Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron's Bombshell Week here on Fade to Black. Centered around, of course, Grant Cameron. The Wilson Davis document, the Oak Shannon interview that happened a few days ago on Project Unity, and the notes of Oak Shannon and others, which I have here tonight. And we're going to go through not everything, but a few select pages and jump into this, because there are some specific things that stand out with these, and so we're going to spend some time on some specific talking points, Grant, and hats off to Melinda Leslie for highlighting the things that my eyes were drawn to, and I think it's just confirmation from all of us that there are some certain things that stick out. And there's one other thing as we get into this. Did you notice how many times dollar signs were in these notes?
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's
dollar signs.
Yeah, I think Melinda's copy with Ed Houck actually has the budget. And that's what people have to remember. The Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group was actually a group that was put together by John Alexander to try to get funding from the U.S. government. Mm-hmm. So if you see in certain parts, they're talking about the what they need to convince people, like the Blue Book said everything was garbage, whatever. Well, we need to talk about the unidentified with the Blue Book. So they're placing this thing. How do we convince people? And John has told the stories about, and I will agree that John's story is actually pretty accurate. When you listen to John Alexander talk about it and you compare it to Oak Shannon's notes, he's pretty much on. He basically talks about the fact that it was to gain money, and he talks about going to the guy who's running Star Wars, and he was trying to get money from the guy for Star Wars, and the guy said, "Are you kidding me? They're already after my budget. If I do UFOs, I could lose my entire budget." And John just basically said nobody would finance the thing. And that's why you see all these dollar signs, and you see who they're going to. At that one point on the one page, they go to Keyworth. Now, Keyworth was the science advisor to President Reagan, and it says no. Then it says P, which is the president, no. Vice president, no. And it goes through this whole thing, and they're going, and it looks like they're asking certain people, and they're trying to get this funding. So it was basically, the bottom line was money. They were trying to get funding for a UFO program to investigate, exactly what they're doing now in Congress. And that's why I say it's like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. They just recycle this program, and it's like you have Bigelow has money, they all appear at Bigelow's place. Joe Firmage has money, they appear at Joe Firmage's place. Tom DeLonge has contacts, they go to Tom DeLonge, and all these people are just gravitating to these same programs, and everybody's trying to get this funding, or they're trying to get information, and it's the same guy showing up all the time. But it basically was to try to get money for funding. That's what it was about. And the one thing I want to point out before we start is when you look at that page where people are signing in, what you'll see on the top of it is Department of Energy. So when you have this big thing with Donald Trump says, I can declassify stuff in my head. The president can declassify stuff just by talking about it. Jimmy Carter did it with the stealth fighter. When the stealth fighter, suddenly he mentioned it, and suddenly it became sort of public, and they had to start declassifying stuff. And Barack Obama did it with Area 51. He used the word Area 51, and he said, "I'm probably the first president not to talk about Area 51," and that's when the name was allowed to be used. But on this one, you see Department of Energy, and the one thing that the president cannot automatically declassify is stuff out of the Department of Energy. It's run by Congress through the Atomic Energy Commission, and it has to. The president needs cooperation from the Congress in order to classify anything in the Department of Energy. And there's always been a rumor going around in the UFO community that one of the places they may have hid the UFO thing was in the Department of Energy, because that's the one place that the executive branch couldn't get to.
Now, this is what I've just posted here. If you look at the top, it says Department of Energy, as Grant just pointed out. This is a visitor pass application that you have to fill out to get into onto a base or into a secured facility. But what's key here is the date, which is May 8th, 1985. And then if you look, it says security classification. It says top secret, that anybody that is that has access to this meeting or to this facility has to have top secret access. And then there's a slash and it says signals. So you have to have a very specific security clearance to move forward. And that's what this page is. And of course, there's a partial list of names here, but it's the date on this document that to me is what is crucial.
And the fact that it's top secret, because how many top secret documents can you name in the UFO community? There are none. They're basically, and so this discussion on UFOs is taking place at a top secret level. Not unclassified or secret or whatever. It's top secret. They're taking this very serious. And the 21 people, according to John, you needed this SCI addition to your top secret clearance to get into the room, even to discuss this.
And here is the map of the location, which you pointed out earlier. Well, you got to have a treasure map, right? You got to know where you're going
before GPS. Yeah,
before GPS. Now here, I've got a clearer page of this. I'm going to pull this down, and I am going to pop this up here. This is the same page. This is Jack Houck. So at the top of the page here, you can see my pointer. That's JH that has been marked on these pages for Jack Houck. There's notes here. Pages marked JH are from Jack Houck. And then anything in yellow is Melinda for highlights. And then all other markings are by Jack Houck, JH. Okay, but this page is the agenda, Advanced Theoretical Physics Conference agenda, again, May 8th. Now, on the handwritten notes, we're going to go back and forth between Oak Shannon notes and Jack's notes. On Oak Shannon's pages, he has written May 8th on several of his pages for dating purposes, which goes back to the original clearance visitors access page that I showed you. That is May 8th. This page is also from Oak Shannon's notes too as well. All right. Okay. So here is the agenda. Now, these documents are now out on the net. You can go and look at them yourself. It's a very interesting reading. But when you read through this, right here, there is a highlight by Melinda, but this just stands out. And this is a recurring theme from this meeting, which is research and development programs needed. And I will add, from recovered UFO crafts and technology. Grant?
Yep, I agree. Yeah, that's the whole deal. Is in the United States we had I don't know if you know that Nicole and I were involved in some negotiations between the Americans and the Canadians on disclosure, and the Canadians want to make an effort, and we really can't get into details, but we were dealing with Americans to come in and help with this, give some information to a bunch of MPs, and the American conclusion was that this is research and development. It's a possible threat. It's being run through the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee, whereas in Canada, the Canadians made it very clear they wanted a scientific investigation. So here again, you see the sort of the military aspect to it, research and development, where you're going to develop new technology and weapons and this sort of thing. Whereas in Canada, they just wanted it to be a straight scientific program.
And so now if we go down, I just jumped ahead to this R&D comment here. We have the introduction, agenda, objectives, purpose, introduce attendees and describe bona fides. I thought that was, all of this is interesting. Objectives, explore evidence presented. B, if evidence is sufficient, is there sufficient evidence to support an R&D research and development program? If evidence is sufficient, what would the thrust be? Develop an action plan. And we're going to get back to that later because the action plan was pretty interesting. And I'm going to get to the notes later. But it's specifically, Grant, let me ask you this really quick. There's a comment at the end of the meeting that was part of the action plan that said, if I'm paraphrasing, if the UFO phenomenon is leaked, we need to have a media plan in advance. Right? It was like, wait, what? And when you saw that comment, what did you make of that?
I don't even remember that. We'll have to discuss it when we go through it. I mean, that's pretty interesting if they do. I mean, because that was one of the things, if you remember McCaslin, the Tom DeLonge's guy, the guy at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, that was one of the things that he provided was this explanation of what to do when disclosure actually takes place. So that's always going to be a consideration. And if you remember the Paul Hellyer story, Paul Hellyer was given information by the head of emergency management in Canada and was told that he was briefed on it, and the head of emergency management would be the guy that would be briefed, because if something happens, then so the stock market melts down or whatever happens, you need a program to do something if disclosure does take place. So I'm pretty sure that they have programs for possible disclosure of an alien race, and they have plans in that are ready to go.
Here it is right here. Action. Initiate and selected source procurement. Point number 2. Plan a media release now if cover is blown later.
Although this may refer to, if you read Jacques Vallée's book number 3, Forbidden Science, he talks about this. And this may refer to the fact that their cover is blown, that this was this top secret thing. And it started to leak right away. This whole idea through Bloom, the New York Times picked it up. And Jacques Vallée had told, Hal Puthoff had told Jacques Vallée about the fact that because this story was leaking about the Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group, this proved you can't keep a UFO secret. It's actually in Jacques Vallée's book. So it may be their cover, not the UFO cover, but it may be, what do you do if this cover that of them working on UFOs breaks? Because the idea was that nobody's working on UFOs. And here these top secret guys are all gathering together to try to get funding for UFOs. So I think that may apply to the fact that if their cover is blown, what are they going to do? And their cover did get blown.
And I'm going to we're going to circle back to that because I think that's a very important point. And also, we can discuss this in a bit. Hal Puthoff was there at this meeting, and he does a presentation. And there was this whole they kept calling it psi, right? The mind. And remote viewing and that aspect of it, which was interesting. And then Hal on the second day did a recap of his presentation of the day before. I found that part extremely compelling. What did you think?
Well, the thing I point out about that is people don't really, I've been in this so long, what I realize that people make a mistake is they always think that what's happening today in UFOs happened back then. What you got to realize with this is remote viewing was not known by the American populace till 1995 when it was declassified by the CIA, when they came and said, we did a study, it doesn't work, we're shutting the program down. That was 1995. That was 10 years before Hal Puthoff is giving a briefing on remote viewing to these guys. And he's using the word remote viewing. That would not become public until 10 years later. So I found that fairly significant, and it's exactly what they're putting out now about the remote viewing and how important it was, and the psi component. At one point, they even talk about the one they're talking about talking to experiencers. And I've got a book coming out called the UFO Sky Pilots, where I've got 36 people who have flown the craft and what they've said and how it's done. And they're all saying the same thing. But what a lot of these people also describe is the fact that when you see the craft, you go up to the craft and it's 30 feet across, and you go inside and it's the size of a football stadium on the inside. And then they look outside again, and it's 30 feet across, and they look inside, and Hal Puthoff actually mentioned that. And in this document, they actually talk about this. They talk about this. It got bigger or she got smaller. The same thing. This idea that when you go inside the UFO craft, they can make it as big as they want inside the craft, and they have this side component that it's all made out of consciousness, and they're able to change things instantly. So you have Hal coming in and giving this briefing. I remember when I first got the notes. The first time I showed the notes was at this Eureka Springs. So I put this top secret thing, and then I quickly put the 20 names on a slide, which lasted for about a second and a half, and it just went like by. And then after the meeting, you remember Tim Good from Great Britain sold the biggest UFO book of all times. He comes to me, he says, Grant, he says, I saw those names on the slide. He said, do you think I could get the names? I said, yeah, I'll give you the names. So I gave him all the names except for Shannon. I gave him all the names. And then I got an email from Hal Puthoff. And Hal Puthoff is very short. He doesn't really email people. I got an email from Hal Puthoff. He said, oh, I understand you got a list of names of a group that I supposedly was part of. And I said, yes, I do. And he said, could I have the names? And I said, yeah, sure. So I gave him the names. I never heard anything more. But Hal was a part. That's the thing. A lot of these guys were part. John Alexander, Hal Puthoff. It's the same sort of crowd that cycles in and out of these groups.
Now, this is, if there's any question about the subject of this meeting, let's go to this page right here. And this is just interesting. A bunch of, we're talking about Lockheed Martin, McDonnell Douglas, the 3-letter agencies, the Department of Defense, physicist, right? And here it is. Check out this page. They discuss, these are the bullet points: biblical UFO history, the San Francisco flap of 1897, and you can there's notes off to the side here.
And these are hoax notes, right?
What's that?
These are hoax
notes. These are Jack's notes. 1947, Kenneth Arnold. Air Force investigations initiated, right? 1947, Project Blue Book. 10,000 reports, 600 unexplained as of 1965. Remember, everybody, this meeting took place in 1985. Think about that for historical context, because they talk about the Condon investigation. They talk about the congressional hearing that happened after Condon, which was back in the 60s. Late 60s, and current sightings rank of 10 to 100 per week, and then classic and typical sightings. Now, they discuss Socorro, 1964, Michigan, Gerald Ford, right, 1966, which initiated Condon, and the last, well, it wasn't the last because we just had hearings, but the hearings that happened in the late 1960s. Washington in 1952 over the Capitol, the Mantell, Lubbock Lights, Guild, and then Itaipu, De Verges, and Villa Boas are all part of their conversation that day. Classified history, overhead correlations, comment from a ship, okay, 5 base locations, and we're going to circle back to that too as well. Isn't that
them? Yeah, they named them. Yeah,
they named them. Correlation with unclassified literature and expectations and data consistent. Let's go back to the 5 base locations, Grant. This is pretty extraordinary, and it's certainly for 1985. And this is a top secret meeting about UFO and ET technology. What's up with these 5 base locations?
Well, the one thing I noticed on that is at the top of the page, if you look at the Oak Shannon notes, it's Ed Dames' name is there. And that may have been what it may have been, a briefing that was given by Ed Dames, that Ed Dames was putting this. So it came to this mountain, the Hayes, is it the Hayes Mountain in Alaska, Perdido in Spain. Those are 2 that I remember, and but they do name these names, but they don't say they're UFO bases. But everybody in the UFO community knows that's what these things were. This is the rumor that there had the alien bases there. So it's brought up in this meeting. Now, whether they take it seriously or not, I'm really not too sure. I mean, I just noted that Ed Dames' name is on the top of that page.
And then we come to this page where they discuss security. And inside of the UFO community, we have talked about compartmentalized segments of all security and military departments in the United States government. That everything is compartmentalized on a need-to-know basis. And, what you know is not what the person next to you knows, and what they know, you don't know. Right. And that's called compartmentalized. It's segmented. It's like separated by rooms and drawers. But I'm talking about the human brain.
And can I make a comment? Because I think that was one of the things that I noticed from the notes was like the Ed Dames didn't seem to be part of the meeting. It's almost like they brought him in for one day to give a briefing. So he would be on a need to know. He would come in for the one day. He would just give his thing. He doesn't know what these guys are doing. He gives his briefing and then he leaves. And he doesn't even know these guys are working on top secret UFO material. He just is told to give his briefing and leave.
That's it. That's called compartmented. And so they want to develop a security situation with the UFO subject in general and dealing with the public. And they say, it should be compartmented, should include all source data, should handle unclassified interactions. Very interesting comment. And then it's this last bullet point, should be totally legal.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good line.
And now I'm going to jump down to the possible goals page, and then we'll get over to Oak Shannon's notes here after the break. But this is where, to me, I always picture people sitting around in a dark room, discussing, the crazy stuff. Well, here you go. Possible goals: create a peaceful earth, prevent war, preserve societal history, establish communication, right, with ET, obtain assistance, establish existence, break through to 22nd century science. And then here we go. Obtain technology spin-offs, non-lethal weapons, biological controls of processes, new materials, agricultural productivity jump, wideband stealth. And then the three big points here: develop a gravity interaction system, discover high-tech, reliable, paranormal performance, and then parry the Soviet threat. Now, what goes through your mind here?
The absence of the alien threat, which I noticed in the notes. There's no, this is a potential threat. They're shutting down. There's no discussion in that I know in the Oak Shannon notes of shutting down nuclear missiles. It says shutting down guns. Some reference to guns. It's shutting down guns. But what you see here is almost like a scientific thing. You have John Alexander's non-lethal weapons, which he's big on. The new materials is the pieces, trying to get what they're doing now with the pieces to back engineer that to get processes. But I see the lack of the threat of the alien thing, that this is a national security threat. You really don't see that in any of these documents. It's more the fact that we can get technological spin-offs and we can increase the productivity and the peace in the world and all this kind of stuff. It's a different sort of spin than what they're putting on it now. And yet, John, I think at one point did say that they used the threat thing in 1985 because you need that to sell the program. Unless there's a threat, unless there's a need, nobody cares. You got to scare the living daylights out of everybody. But I noticed the lack of that in these documents. They really don't talk about reptilians and they're going to eat us and all the stuff that you hear now. And it's a potential threat, and we've got to deal with it. National security. You don't see that in these documents.
Yeah, and create a peaceful Earth, right? And then we have advantage to the United States, maximum payoff to mankind, earliest successful milestone, and minimum risk of disastrous failure. Just interesting for something that's supposed to be about physics, right? This 2-day meeting was certainly centered on ET contact, research and development, the weaponization of that technology, bringing the technology into manufacturing for the masses. Very, very interesting and direct.
Just the last thing before you go to the break is something that's always puzzled me. We've always seen these notes from 85, like Houck's notes and Shannon's notes agree. But John, if you hear John lecture, he describes the fact that it went on from 84 to 89. And I don't really know what they were doing in that period of time. I only know about this 85 thing, but John seems to indicate it went on for a lot longer than just these couple of days that these meetings took place.
Yeah. And so, man, I got to get to a break. So here's the teaser before the break. They went from create a peaceful Earth to this: consolidate existing data to establish threat. Yeah. UFO database, classified database, abduction database, collect new data, install sensors, overflights, define several credible scenarios. That's a very interesting line right there. Develop new physics theory, obtain direct contact. Holy crap, right? Yeah. Physical. And the psi reference is right there. Very interesting. Let's take our break. Our guest tonight, the one and only Grant Cameron, who has once again found himself at the center of Bombshell Week here on Fade to Black. We'll be right back after this short break. Everybody stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Huge week on Fade to Black. Tonight, Grant Cameron. Tomorrow night, I am going to take everybody on a 2.5-hour walkthrough of the Wilson Davis documents. Wednesday night, Richard Dolan is here. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer and UNX Networks. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
The Believer is the chilling true story of Dr. John Mack, a renowned Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
He risked it all to investigate human encounters with aliens. The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. Written by award-winning former New York Times journalist and author Ralph Blumenthal. Now available in paperback from High Road Books.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
Hi, I'm Ray Sobbs, and I'm here to tell you about something I really think you're going to like. The UNX Network is a part of a larger group called UNX Media, and one of the things we offer is the quarterly UNX magazine, which is available both in print and digital formats. This amazing magazine covers all aspects of the unexplained and makes for a great coffee table periodical that is certain to spark enlightening conversations in your living rooms. We invite you to check out the latest digital issue for free. Just go to unxnetwork.com/membership and fill out your free membership with your name and email and become a new free member. The new summer issue is now available, and the theme is Time Anomalies, which includes a feature article written by our managing editor, Lee Spiegel. Just go to unxnetwork.com/memberships. That's unxnetwork.com/memberships and get your free e-copy of the UNX magazine today.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. It's Bombshell week here. Wilson Davis, Grant Cameron, Oak Shannon. Oak Shannon went public in an interview a few days ago on Project Unity. His name was mentioned in the Wilson Davis documents, and that Grant Cameron found himself at the center of a few years ago. And the UFO community has since then taken charge with this, independent of what's going on in the Department of Defense and Capitol Hill. The community is getting it done, independent of anything else. And this is a huge week. And hats off to everybody involved, and Melinda Leslie, who is just absolutely wonderful. Whenever I hang out with Melinda, and I know she's listening right now, and she looks at you and starts to make a point, and you're going eyeball to eyeball, you take her serious. You take Melinda serious, and I just love her to death. Okay, so anyway, in a minute here, we're going to get to the Oak Shannon notes. I wanted to go through these notes first, because they correlate and they cross-reference back and forth. Oh, Melinda just called me. Melinda, I'm on the air. Seriously. Seriously, it just popped up.
She's getting it done.
Missed call. Oh, look. Should I call her?
There you go. There you go.
Hold on.
I just, did you just hear my little message?
Melinda, I'm live on the air with Grant Cameron.
What you got to say?
Well, I'm in the middle of the show and we're talking about you. Can you stay out of the action for just a few minutes?
I just sent you a funny message. That's all. Are we on the air right now?
We are on the air right now. You are live. Say hi to everybody. There you go. Melinda, I'll call you after the show. Good job.
Okay. All right, man. Bye.
Bye. What's going on?
There's only one Melinda Leslie.
There's only one. She's the best. Can
I make a comment? Let me make. I make a comment. During the break, Nicole Sackage, my assistant, sent me the actual reference from Jacques Vallée's book. I think it's actually very interesting to read to describe what happened here. And I knew this before. It was called the Secret Onion Project. I don't know if you know that.
That's right. Yeah.
So Hell, this is Jacques Vallée talking. Hell tells me that the Secret Onion Project is dead. This is November the 28th of 1986. Tells me that the Secret Onion Project is dead. After all those high-level meetings, someone who was higher up threw a monkey wrench into the gears. I believe they became visible prematurely. And that's what I was talking about before. It was leaking already, and they blamed Jack Houck for it. The episode with Jack Houck was demonstrated that they are incapable of maintaining confidentiality. And Houck was telling various people about the fact that this meeting was going on. And because it became exposed, it's the same story that you hear with Danny Sheehan and with Dual Zondo, is that the higher ups throw the monkey wrench in there to shut the thing down. They hear this project's going on, and that's why they wanted to keep it so confidential, but protect themselves not only from the public, but from the higher ups who are going to shut the program down. And that's what this seemed to describe, that they shut the program down.
Yeah, and in Jack Houck's notes, back to your point, let me bring this up. He says, selection criteria: a good plan will satisfy prime goal and several others, maximize success probability, have airtight security. Right.
Yeah, you always hear this story. I don't know if it's true, but there's always a story that they spend. Well, Richard Doty's listening; he may be able to make a comment, but they spend more money on security than they do on the program. That's one of the stories that I hear.
And now I just want to get to this really quick. This is evaluation procedure, evaluation data. And let's scroll through this really quick because it's ranked. Over here it says rank and then 1 through 5. Number 1, detector deployment to detect these craft. That's the number 1 priority. Overflights is the number 3 priority. UFO database is number 5. Number 4, classified data is listed as number 4 as a procedure. Abductee data, very interesting, and that's listed as number 8. Let me go down here. There it is, number 2.
Yeah,
psi contact.
And that's what you see is the importance, because you have Hal Puthoff, who is remote viewing. You have John Alexander, who is doing the programs with the goat and all that kind of stuff, and you have a Hauk and all these guys that are bending spoons and stuff. And in the Shannon notes, they describe the fact that the Russians are ahead of us in the psi thing, and the Israelis are telling us that the Russians are ahead of us, but the Israelis are ahead of the Russians. And it's this whole thing about psi, this race to get the psi component to this whole thing.
And so now we have proposed scope and then column 1 task and good result on this side. Deploy detectors and monitor. Number 2, overfly, tight correlation with
other observables.
Observables. Assess classified data, scope and quality. Number 4, go for psi remote viewing contact. Whew, man, absolutely crazy. So, and then next is a breakdown of the schedule and the program plan. And then I'm going to, this is interesting, and everybody can go look at the document yourself, and it's out there on the net. But this is what Grant referred to at the beginning of the program, is we have a cost breakdown of this. Grant, take us through this.
Yeah, well, this is the deployment that you had that as number 1. So that's the major, and that's what they're doing again with what's going on now with the Nimitz. That's why Nimitz was so important, because you had not only observables like pilots, but you had all this equipment picking it up. So this is the idea of in order to sell it scientifically, you need measurement. So you need non-subjective elements that detect it and measure it and stuff like that. That's what they're mainly doing, because in order to sell it, you'll need this data to prove that it's not just people imagining things, that you actually have radar and you have all these other different components. So that was the major thing that they want. The classified stuff, I'm not really too sure. The high-tech stuff, again, it was this idea that they wanted to monitor, and it comes down to this whole idea that I got from the documents as well that John Alexander has described. Is the final conclusion was, yes, UFOs exist, exactly what the government's saying now. UFOs exist, and we haven't got the clue what's going on. We're still trying to do detectors. We're still trying to prove that UFOs exist. And so that's what this is all about, is trying to get the proof with the data and so that they can convince high-level people to give them the $1.2 million, which I guess was a lot of money at that time, to run this program to investigate UFOs. But you needed this detector equipment in order to prove it scientifically, because the word of mouth really didn't work in Blue Book, where they went to Blue Book and they said, well, we got to talk about the unsolved cases and stuff like that, and we got to try to sell this thing to whoever they were trying to sell it to. And John talked about the fact that they basically were not able to sell it.
The documents for everybody. I'm watching this conversation going down in the live chat. Documents are available all over Twitter, all over Facebook, all over social media. You can go and get the download links. It's been happening all day long. The documents are now widely distributed. I'm not showing them for the first time. They have been out there all day long, and everybody is talking about their specific points and what they find interesting. Now, when we get to, I'm bringing this up here. I also have this is Oak Shannon's notes. I'm going to pull them up separately here so I can look at them blown up and so I can see what the heck I'm looking at. So let me pull these up. This is page 2, or no, page 3, page 4. Okay. This is the review of Hal Puthoff's presentation, and we've been talking about this already. But let's go through this because there's a comment in here which is right under number 1. It goes A and B. This 150,000 magnetic field number. Let's talk about that for a second, can we?
Yeah, I sent that to Jimmy Blanchette to ask him whether that number means anything to him. Somebody else was talking about this 150,000. I think I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy Blanchette was talking about this number. And this is the idea that you have this magnetic field, that you're getting measurements. You're getting scientific measurements. It's not just, targets. Are you close? Are you not close? This sort of stuff that it indicated. And again, we got to go back to the fact that this was remote viewing 10 years before it was actually declassified. In 1985, you could say to people remote viewing, they wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about. This was sort of advanced, and Hal was talking about. I remember talking to Hal about, did you brief the president? And he basically indicated that up till 1988, when he left the program, the president and the vice president were being briefed on remote viewing. So this was going right up to the top. But the number surprised me because I never heard really any numbers of magnetic fields being associated. And I know they were doing that with Laurentian University. They were using magnetic fields to around people's heads, and they were doing this thing with the Schumann's resonance, and the target was on, like Ingo Swann. When they blocked the Schumann's resonance, Ingo Swann couldn't hit a target. When they had the Schumann's resonance on, Ingo would be on target and stuff like that. So when I saw the number, I was kind of impressed that they actually had some sort of measurement of something.
They did, and now these are handwritten notes, everybody. So as this presentation is going on, Oak Shannon is writing this down. So the exactness of it may not be what we need here, but what he says is 150,000, and it says AML or AMI turns. Magnetic field seems to be associated with UFO sightings. Very interesting, and it's a very direct number. And then
somebody else brings this up. I can't remember who it is, but there is somebody else who's making the same claim, and it's got nothing to do with this. It's just recently.
Okay, I got you. The next part is remote viewing. And again, we started to talk about this. I heard you mention this earlier today. Indication that info is subliminal flash phenomenon, 20% signal, 80% noise. Yeah. Fill in from imagination. You mentioned this earlier. Can you expand on that?
Well, this I've talked about is my idea. Like, I wrote a book called Contact Modalities, and the idea that I have is similar. Is the idea that what you're trying to do is everybody can access the field, the psychic field. The reason you can't access the field is because your left brain, the little ego, is talking in your head, and there's got all this noise. And the idea of whether it's hypnosis or whether it's meditation or whether it's psychedelics or whatever, is to shut the left brain down. And when you shut the left brain down, you shut off the noise, and that gives you the signal. You can pick up the signal. And I remember when I made that discovery, I said, "Oh my God!" And I went to Hal Puthoff. I said, "Hal, did you do this left brain, right brain thing?" And he said, "Read chapter 6 of my book." And I go, chapter 6 of their book on the mind, and it's all about the right brain, left brain. This whole idea that the female brain, the right brain is one that's accessing the field, and the left brain is the one that's causing all the noise. So that's just 80% noise. And the idea of all these protocols of trying to access the field, whether it's psychic or mediums or whatever it is the same idea. It's trying to reduce that noise factor so you can pick up the signal. Everybody can pick up the signal. It's just the noise is getting in the way.
This is the next page, which it's at the top. It says Wednesday, review of Tuesday. intro, objective known evidence. And then it's listed the cases here. Cash Landrum, they have Iran listed here, the crazy F4 Phantom. Yep. But they, what I thought was interesting here is Rendlesham listed right there. And also down at the bottom, I want to go back to Woodbridge specifically, because at that time, this wasn't it wasn't what it is today in pop culture. This is 1985, 4 years after Rendlesham, and here they are talking about it in very specific detail.
Well, there is an idea that there's people making claims that John Alexander was involved with, that he was part of the briefings, or he was involved with Rendlesham. What I think is important here is what they're trying to do again is they're trying not to deal with the UFOs don't exist, it's all subjective, whatever. They're trying to find the best cases they can possibly grab, pull them out of all the noise of all the bad cases, and sell it to the government. So they're looking at Cash Landrum as a very concrete case. The Iran thing had measurements. The Woodbridge thing had, ground traces and high level witnesses and stuff. And then you have this thing, I think later on, this Neary photographs, where he talks about these photographs that were taken. And so they're looking for this high quality evidence that they want to present to build their case.
And it goes on. Mike Neely photos.
Yeah, that's discussed later on in the notes. I can't remember what it is, but they actually do that. But there's an important thing that comes here. Bob, I've got a lot of documents that I haven't released yet, and I've got a lot of documents I have released. And one of them has to do with the next one. Is Bob Wood was there, and if you probably interviewed Bob Wood and Ryan Wood, they were leaked 3,700 pages of the new Majestic 12 documents. These documents were coming to them. There was book stuff and all this kind of stuff. And Bob Wood, some of his documents leaked to me. And what happened was Bob Wood ran a program. People may not know. McDonnell Douglas ran a program in 1968 on UFOs. They were given $500,000. Bob Wood ran the program. James Douglas, I think, was interested, and he said, I'll give you $500,000. You figure out what's going on. And so they had this whole team, exactly what John Alexander was doing in 1985. They did with McDonnell Douglas in 67. And they had, getting investigations, cases and stuff. And they were interviewing people who were abductees. And what they were doing is they were doing regressions of these people who were abductees, and they would regress them and say, did the aliens tell you how the craft works? And they were trying to figure out how the craft worked, because it was the idea. They said either we get it or Boeing's going to get it. And they sold this program, so they did it. And what happened, the guy that did the regressions actually had a set of notes, the same as Oak Shannon had a set of notes, and Houck had a set of notes. He had this set of notes, and he was keeping them in the barn of his farm, and he dies. And then the next guy that comes along buys the farm, and he sees these notes in the barn, and he goes, oh my God, I can get piles of money. He puts them on eBay, and they sell for $29. The guy that buys them comes to me, and I look at him, and I get him a website, check the evidence .com in Great Britain to put the
in the UK, yes,
in the UK, and they put them up. And Bob Wood comes to me; he's absolutely furious. How do you get these documents? And I told him the story about the guy selling on my eBay. He said, "Oh, okay." So these documents, that's what happens. People keep these documents secret. When they die, the documents sort of float out, and people like me grab onto them. And this is how these things get out. But there's a lot of stuff that people really don't know. There's a lot of UFO studies that took place that nobody really knows. There was one I was given documents of, and I've talked about it a bit, from Lyndon Johnson. I was given a manuscript that was written on a book on the guy that set up the UFO program for Lyndon Johnson, and the whole thing about who was on the program and how they ran it and all this kind of stuff. And it came to the same conclusion as here. UFOs absolutely exist, and we haven't got a clue. Beyond that, we have no idea what's going on.
There's so Bob Wood is listed here for presenting reports. McDonnell Douglas and his study that you just referenced. Don Kay did a report, presented a report on ET, and then Hal Puthoff is listed here for remote viewing. And then down at the bottom of the page, you see an asterisk. It says Hal Puthoff recapped his presentation for Joe Brydock. And then we go to the next.
Can I make a comment on this? Go back again. I want to make a comment on this because flip back to the last page because I lost my train of thought here.
Right
here.
I
looked up this Don Kay and who he was, because if you take a look at the names, there's two different guys. There's Don Keir, and the thing that was interesting to me is you have a top secret meeting and guys are giving briefings, and this Don Kay guy is giving a briefing on ETs. And it's like, well, what do they know about ETs? It's like, this is 1985. So he's either Don Kerr or he's Keubler. And the one guy is actually he's now the director of news and intelligence for the National Geographic International Agency. And I recalled Tom DeLonge mentioning that agency, that's where they were hiding the UFO thing. And so some of these guys were high-level guys that were deputy director of national intelligence, these Don Kay guys. And I don't know which guy it was, but I went to back, and a lot of people do this information the same as they did with the Wilson document, where they started to look at all the names. There's a lot of names in here that have never been put out before in terms of UFO. And people are going to look these people up and start to put the dots together and connect the dots. There's a lot of new names in these documents as to people that we never knew were associated with the UFO phenomena. And you got to remember, this is happening at a top secret SCI level.
The next page, I want to get to this before we get to the break. Thoughts on Wednesday's process. Where do we want to be? Action items. How do we proceed? And then John, I'm assuming that's John Alexander.
Yeah.
No source other than personal experiences. 50% believe there is something begging to be studied, and that is from John Alexander. Comment on that page with John's statement.
Well, that's what John has always maintained. Nobody's disputing the fact that there isn't something to investigate. But what he's saying is that when he went up to the chain of command, nobody was interested. Nobody wanted to deal with it. And it is to be investigated, and they really don't know. And that you should put it out. But the thing is to convince the people at the top to spend the money, because most people are working on when things fall apart, when the bridge falls down, then they do something. But if you go and say, well, we should do some advanced stuff to stop bridges from falling down, they're really not interested, because they work backwards. They wait for the event to happen in Parliament and before they'll do anything.
Let's take our break right here. We're going to continue with Oak Shannon's notes. This is Bombshell Week here on Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. Once again, Grant at the center of all of it. A lot of hard work going on. And, of course, I want to thank Melinda Leslie as well. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
The Believer is the chilling true story of Dr. John Mack, a renowned Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
He risked it all to investigate human encounters with aliens. The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. Written by award-winning former New York Times journalist and author Ralph Blumenthal. Now available in paperback from High Road Books.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church tonight. Grant Cameron. It's Bombshell week here on Fade to Black. Huge development. Something in my throat. You know, the only thing that fixes that for me, Grant?
What's that? Oh, there you go.
Rivermoon Coffee.
There you go. I'm good to go now.
Yeah, I'm reading through these notes during the break. It's just like, it's the best, right? It's the best. It's Don Kemble, Kemble. And if you go down further into the notes, which is here, this is Oak Shannon's Don Kemble page.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah.
And Hypothesis ET. Now let's go through. This is extraordinary. And now to put all of this in context for everybody, this is a top secret meeting that is going down May 8th and 9th, 1985, with members of different agencies, the Department of Defense, physicists, and scientists, all looking into ET contact, crash retrieval technology, research and development, and what should be done with all of this. And this is Don Kemble's page, Hypothesis ET. And I'm going to go through a couple of these points that are here. It says, given modest number civilizations, one will colonize galaxy. Very interesting point. Number two. Okay, we're going to stop right here on this point. It's extraordinary. One-way trips, most likely first step. What? Right? Wait. What's Don talking about here?
Yeah, well, I think that's the same as I always make the joke about Mars, where people always say, "Oh, I'd like to go to Mars." I said, "I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada." I said, I know what it's like at 35 below. You're talking, you've never been in 35 below. You get to Mars, the suicide rate will be like 100%. It's a one-way trip because you're not coming back. They speak $1 billion per person to get you there. And I think that's this idea that once you leave, you ain't coming back. Even now to go to Mars, it's a one-way trip.
And he says fuel replacement and destination likely. Number 4, no fundamental new physics required to permit interstellar flight, e.g.
fusion. Yeah, that's Stanton Friedman's big argument.
Right.
You don't need new physics.
Lifetime of ET, multi-generation travel. Suspended animation, staging stations, and moving down here, would expect active signal interaction to precede, not proceed, to precede travel. So they're talking about contact with ET, right? Communication with ET before we go interstellar.
Yeah, SETI, like Stanton's silly effort to investigate.
Oh man. What is space density of technology technology civilization in galaxy in numbers?
Yeah.
If number is not small, so now we're getting into the Drake equation.
Yeah, the Drake equation, exactly.
And talking about how many civilizations out there that are technically advanced and are interstellar and are visiting us. Now, moving down, travel practical, probability is high. Why no contact? That's very interesting. We are being ignored, by ET, and we are being discreetly watched. That's part of the notes here. We are being discreetly watched. Where is everybody? This is back to the Drake equation, and of course, the Fermi paradox. And here,
scroll up a minute. Hang on, you missed one piece here. They're talking about this no mass abductions, not likely. You'll see that was one of the things I brought up at the end of the Wilson document. It says no abductions, and everybody said, well, that's counterintelligence. They were throwing off Admiral Wilson. They're trying to give him fake stuff. So I started to look at all the people. Jacques Vallée says no abductions. I got an actual quote from Edgar Mitchell, said no abductions. I got a quote from Kit Green. Kit Green says no abductions ever. And that's this whole idea that there's an event taking place, but it may not be what we actually think is going on. And I found this very significant that even here they have this idea that they're questioning the abduction thing as to what it really means.
Yeah, and back to your point, and you're right, I did gloss over this. Needs and desires of ET, right? Critical labor, raw materials, rare elements, genetics, and of course, knowledge base. And then it says here, avoid cultural shock to us.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Even today it does. Yeah.
Personal stories, anecdotes. This is Mike Neary.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Yes.
This is interesting stuff, this here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead and go through it. Okay, so I have to repeat myself.
Yeah. They have this photograph of UFOs against a rotating star background. Nobody was interested, so stored it in a safe drawer. So this guy tries to convince somebody, and when they won't buy the thing, Neary puts the file or the photographs in his safe drawer, and they were gone when he cleaned out prior to transfer. His boss and secretary had safe combos. So he gets these photographs that you think are really significant photographs. Nobody wants to buy it. He tells people, he puts them in this safe drawer. And then when he leaves to go on a transfer, the photographs are gone. They take them out. And they talk about that. I think it's in here. Ed Speakman guy says, are we being led to the conclusion that an organization exists which sucks up all this national into a box? This idea that there's guys that are their job is to get rid of this, and then this other guy makes the comment, I think you can believe that. So they're basically admitting the fact that yes, there are people that are there. And I think Hal McConnell is the guy who was rumored to have leaked it to the New York Times. He talks about an associate knew a man who got out of the Air Force and joined an organization which collects and burns such items. This idea that there are people out there who are going to collect the good UFO material and they're going to destroy it and get rid of it so you can't prove the case. And I found this page absolutely fascinating, that these guys are having this discussion. And the guy says, is that what we're to believe? And the guy says, yeah, I think that's what we're going to believe. This is what's going on. And they're actually buying this whole story that this is actually going on.
And doesn't it, going back to not only Oak Shannon's interview on Project Unity, but going back to the Eric Davis notes in the Wilson Davis document about the stonewalling and the compartmentalization, the hang up of phone calls, the difficulty to have access to what is actually going on, that there is a concerted effort to conceal all of this.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we've always been, is there this cabal, is there this group? And I know even when in 2016 I was on Coast with Chris Mellon, and he said in 2016, he said, there is no UFO cover up. There is no program. If there was a program, I would have known about it. And then you see suddenly a year later, he's part of this program with Lou Elizondo, and they're going to release all this kind of stuff. And so there's this idea: is there actually a high level group that's got control of stuff? And with the story that was told by the guy that did the Senate Appropriations Committee, the lawyer, where he told Jesse Marcel Jr., Dick D'Amato told Jesse Marcel Jr., he said, I want to tell you this is all for real. He points to the Majestic book and he bangs on it. And they're in a skiff as well underneath the Capitol. And he said, this is for real. And then Jesse said, I know it's for real. What are you going to do about it? He said, well, if it was up to me, I would have released it yesterday, but it's not up to me. I'm just here to find out how much the security is costing. And you see this idea that there is actually this group. And now you've heard about these programs that Hal Puthoff talks about. These, I can't remember what the name of the program was, but these programs that exist, and they're right. So the idea is to say, well, Lou Elizondo is head of the UFO program. Which UFO program is he ahead of? Now the rumor is that he's heading up the program for the space.
No, he's not.
This is the rumor that's going around. This is the thing.
That's social media creating stuff.
Okay, but that's the thing. But that's the debate that people have. Is there actually a group up there of people who know more than we do? Or you hear Lou Elizondo talking, and he says, "Well, I have to watch what I say." And when he says that, it indicates to me there's somebody above him who knows more about this situation. Like, how would somebody know that he broke security unless somebody above him knows more than he does and knows when he's breaking security clearance and when he's not breaking security clearance? There's a bunch of people that appears to be that what these guys are talking about. There's a group up there. It may be a black group. It may be a group that's compartmentalized that knows what's going on and will come down. And once you become public, as was in this reference in the Jacques Vallée's book, once it becomes public, they throw the thing in the gears to shut the program down because they don't want any programs running. That there is actually these high level groups that are running. Or Tom DeLonge, when Tom DeLonge went to the skiff in Lockheed Skunk Works, and the head scientist says to him, what do you know? How did they get here? And he says, I think consciousness is involved. And then he said, the head scientist said, now you're talking. And that's all he would talk about for 45 minutes was consciousness, as if they have this idea of how this thing actually operates, which is what I've come to. It's got more to do with consciousness than people really will give it credit for. And
I'm a little concerned about how it's like the game of telephone that we used to play as kids, and Lou Elizondo's role in the Space Force. Now, he may be a consultant.
Well, what is he then? You tell me what he is then.
Quite frankly, to be a member of the Space Force, you're enlisted. You're enlisted. You're wearing a uniform. Okay, that's a whole nother situation. And until Lou is in uniform, and we see pictures of that, he's not enlisted in the Space Force. You need a DD-214 and everything else, and you wouldn't be on Twitter talking about it. That's it.
So you're saying he's not even part of Space Force?
No, maybe as a contractor. But as a civilian,
but you're guessing. I mean, you're guessing the same way. You're guessing in the opposite direction. You're guessing. I'm guessing. We don't know. That's the thing. Is there all these rumors are running around, and because there's no openness, it's all secrecy. The rumors run amok. That's why we have all the rumors. Is because there's so much secrecy.
Yeah, true. Except Grant, I was just at Space Force Base Vandenberg. It's not an Air Force base. It's now a Space Force base. I was just there. I went on base and I watched a launch. Okay. I was around members of the Space Force, security teams, everything else. Everybody, you're in uniform. I have pictures of me with Space Force personnel with my arms around them. You are enlisted. You're enlisted.
But you have a job. You have a job.
There is nobody running around there as a civilian claiming to be a member of the Space Force. No, it's like saying you're in the Army, but you're not. You can't be. You can't say you're in the Army. You may be a consultant to something, but you have to be enlisted to be in the Space Force. So if Lou is enlisted, then he's enlisted. Well, okay, that's a different
story. Or it could be a contractor and
a contractor, but that's not a member of the Space Force.
Well, but it's still Space Force. I mean, you were playing word games here, and that's what I'm saying.
Grant, it's not word games. If you're a contractor to the United States Army, you're a contractor to the United States Army. You're not a member of the United States Army. It's a difference.
But it's a word game. I believe it's a word game they're playing. I mean, you're a contractor. You're really not with us, but we're paying you, and it's coming out of another budget. And this company owns this company, and you get paid out of this company, but this company is actually doing it. And they play these games all the time where they move the money around, and nobody knows where the money's coming from. And that's the problem with secrecy. When we have this secrecy, all this stuff happens. There's all these stories. There's all these rumors, and we have to guess. What option do we have but to guess what's going on?
Yeah,
because nobody's telling us. That's what I said to you, Jimmy. In terms of what Congress has learned, what have you learned from Congress? Absolutely nothing, except the fact that they are doing an investigation. It's all behind closed door. It's all under secrecy. It's all going into the black world. We don't know anything except there was 144 sightings. End of story. Keep paying your taxes and shut up. That's what they're doing.
That's exactly it. And again, I'll go back to my point. The research that the UFO community has done into Wilson Davis, Oak Shannon, these notes is more work why than what has been presented to us. The UFO community has done this on their own. And why isn't Chris Mellon talking about Oak Shannon? Why isn't Chris Mellon talking about Eric Davis and the Wilson Davis docs? This is extraordinary, and they're talking about secrecy, and it's here right in front of them. This is work. I don't get it. If you know everything, why don't you know about this?
Well, they are being asked. I mean, Lou Elizondo has been asked how many times about the Wilson document, and he walks around it, which indicates that he knows something, but he's not talking about it. I mean, they've been asked. I don't know if Mellon's been asked, but Elizondo for sure has been asked. I've heard him being asked about the thing. And the same, they ask, Nolan, and he talks in his little rhymes and riddles, and you sort of get the indication that, okay, he knows, and he gave somebody a briefing and all this kind of stuff. And that's the problem, is we still have a lot of secrecy that we're fighting through. And that's what the Canadians said in 1950. It's the most highly classified subject in the United States. And there's a lot of high-level secrecy, and everybody's keeping it to themselves. And one of the problems they have in the terms of secrecy is they don't know anything. I maintain that beyond the UFOs being here, they don't really know a heck of a lot in terms of the consciousness and how that's all fits together. And therefore, they want to be secret because they don't want to give their cards to the Russians and to the Chinese. So I don't blame them for the secrecy, but the secrecy is causing the rumors.
Yeah, and again, social media is creating some of these statements. I haven't heard anything definitive from anybody about Lou being a member of the Space Force. A consultant, okay, all right, and it may not have anything to do with UFOs, by the way. Could be with satellite.
I don't think there's any chance of that.
Yeah, so,
no chance, Jimmy, no chance.
Okay, so now let's go to this next page here. Jack Houck, recovered materials found. And let's go through this, because this is again very significant, because they mention angel hair. Yeah. Which is something that hasn't been talked about in the UFO community in quite a while. But this is 1985. Yellow national polystyrene, conventional yellow material, conventional polystyrene, paper tape, and metal slivers 1x1 millimeter shavings, chaff, perfect dimensions. Can you comment on this page?
Well, the metal is, I think they at some point refer to the Brazilian thing, like they have some of the Brazilian stuff. I'm not sure what the metal shavings are. The angel hair is, I always talk about in the UFO community that the intelligence behind the phenomenon is playing a game, that they do this, then they do this. Like 1895, they're flying around in wooden ships for propellers, and then they change to this type of craft. And the angel hair, most people really don't even know what it is because it hasn't happened for many years. It was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, where UFOs would fly over and they would leave this sort of a cloud, almost like a web of white stuff hanging from trees, and people would collect this stuff. In fact, the 1952 piece that came to Canada, there was a CIA guy packaged it for the Canadians, and they put some angel hair in the box with the 1952 piece, which came to Canada. When it arrived in Canada, the angel hair had completely disappeared, and that was the whole idea behind angel hair. It would sort of disappear. You'd have it in your hand, and it would dissolve, and you could never get it analyzed. But this is what in those days. But now angel hair doesn't happen anymore, and I maintain that's happened with a lot of UFO stuff, that we really don't have landing traces anymore. We don't have UFOs with windows anymore. It's almost like the intelligence is turning the pages of a book. It does this, then it does this, starts cattle mutilations, it stops cattle mutilations, then it does crop circles, then it does this. And it's almost like it's dropping these little breadcrumbs and keeping us going. And the mistake we make in the UFO community is we always think that what happened today happened in 1975. And I was in 75, and I can tell you it was a completely different world than it is now. None of the stuff that was being talked about now was talked about in 1975. None of it. I remember the first crash, the first alien body thing was done at Dayton Air Force, Dayton MUFON conference. I remember there, Len Stringfield was giving it. I remember there was a threat. I was to talk to him. Suddenly they said, oh, he's been moved to another hotel because there was a threat against his death. That was the first time they talked about alien bodies, was at that conference, Len Stringfield. I remember that clearly. That was like in 1978. But before then, we'd never heard about this kind of stuff. It was just not talked about. And now it's a completely different world, almost like we've advanced greatly beyond understanding of 1975 in terms of the fact that consciousness is part of this thing, that it's more complex than we think it is, that there may even be, like you had this whole thing about the Drake equation. That was almost the old school. Now it's the idea where people are talking about the fact that they may be able to move instantaneously. The idea of non-local time and space, that they can actually move from place to place just by moving into dimensions. Dimensions weren't talked about in 1975. There's no way. So it's a different world than it is now. And so people are struggling. Here you've got very simple stuff. Now you've got, Jacques Vallée with this whole collection of stuff. And they're using very elaborate machines where tests were done on this metal back in 1975, and they said there's nothing to it. And now they've got this new equipment that Nolan has, and they can do more, and they suddenly detect that the isotopes have changed. So we're moving along, and we're getting more advanced and more sure of this thing, to the point where now everybody would say, if you go in the street and say, do you think UFOs exist? Everybody would say, yeah, they exist. It's a different world, especially after 2017, when the New York Times broke the story. It's a completely different world, and people have to realize it's a different world than it was in 1985 when this document was written.
And there was going back to the Oak Shannon interview. Oak really caught my attention when he said that, after Vietnam, he was able to choose his next assignment. And he decided to go back to officer training school in Monterey, California, where I think he said he got a degree in physics, right? And while he was there, he partnered up with, his name escapes me now, but somebody else in the Navy at the school that developed the theory of a fifth dimension. Right. And Oak spent a lot of time talking about the interdimensional aspect of this when we talk about a fifth dimension and the ability to go from another dimension into our dimension. And this is how that they're there. They're just going from one dimension into another, which in this case is a dimension here where we can see them. I thought that was extremely profound by Oak.
Yeah, and it sounded like they produced some material, some written material. And what you're going to see, I think, the other thing I've noticed is I call them the young guns. These young guys that are in the UFO community who know how to work a computer, they know how to search stuff. And what you're going to see now, as I said before, is you're going to see people rip this document apart, and they're going to start looking for these papers, the Oak Shannon papers, right on this fifth dimension and stuff like that. You're going to see a lot of stuff that's tied into this, where these guys will pull out new details and stuff that I never even knew, just based upon these documents. So this is like a breadcrumb thing for these very smart guys to take the next step.
And he said, Oak Shannon, again, I'm just paraphrasing here. I've watched the interview multiple times. He said that he took this fifth dimension theory, which is what he called it, to Los Alamos and presented it to the physicists there. And it was an uphill battle trying to get them to accept this fifth dimension theory into the world of physics. What did you think about that comment?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, he was working with this other guy, and I think he said somebody killed it or something. Somebody killed the project. They were trying to convince these higher ups, and that may be in how he got involved. Was John Alexander was at Los Alamos, and so when Oak was there, he was probably talking about this stuff, and his buddy was talking about it, and they were trying to convince people and sell their thing to get funding. The same thing. That's how it works in science. You've got to convince people that you've got a good idea that they should fund. And so they were trying to sell this thing, and so Alexander would have figured out this guy was into UFOs and said, "Oh, come to this meeting." And John said all these people paid their own way. That this was not something that the government funded. They all paid their own way to this meeting, and so that's how Oak got involved by this fifth dimensional thing. I'd be interested to see. I'm pretty sure someone will go and find in the literature, the scientific literature, the actual writings by Oak Shannon. I would say that that's changed now, because Oak Shannon is still, you see, it's a material version of the fifth dimension is still material, and I'm going to say that it's going to be consciousness. It's going to be Max Planck that says consciousness is primary. That's where the UFO community is going in terms of when the people fly the ship. They talk about you use your mind to fly the ship. The ship is alive. You become one with the craft. You can go instantaneously. I talked to the one guy who said it was 1 second, and he was outside the Milky Way, which is like 50 to 70,000 light years. He went in 1 second. That's the kind of stuff. So when you see where they're talking about multiple lifetimes, your one-way trip and all this kind of stuff, or this whole idea of interstellar travel in the physical world, but in the interdimensional world, the idea of if time and space is non-local, if it's all non-local, you can move from one place to the other. And that's what Eric Davis is working on. The whole idea of wormholes, that not this idea that they're talking here, this advanced thing that you can actually flip from one part of the universe to the other. I think that's where it's going. And I say Max Planck said consciousness is primary. And a lot of the early quantum physicist guys said you can't get behind consciousness. There are all these things. Consciousness is primary. Consciousness creates matter. And I say until we get that solid, we are never going to understand the UFO thing. We got it backwards. We think that matter creates consciousness. It's the other way around. And that's the key to the whole UFO mystery, is this consciousness factor.
Now, when we come back after the break, here's the page on Woodbridge. And we're going to break this whole page down. But at the bottom of these notes, it says this.
Yeah.
Film made and flown to Germany. Holy crap. What does this mean? We'll talk about all of this when we come back after this short break. Our guest tonight, the one and only. It's Grant Cameron week here on Fade to Black.
and make sure in the last segment that we get to Bobby Ray Inman. That's the major part of the document.
I'll leave that to you, my friend. We'll be right back after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pier Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pier Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Whew, man, what a show tonight. Grant Cameron is with us. And Grant, we've just got a little bit of time left here. And thank you, man. You've had a very busy day. You've got a crazy week. in front of you. And thank you for taking the time tonight for this very, very important show. And right before the break, I brought up the page about Rendlesham, Woodbridge, and all of the comments are what we're familiar with, except for this last line here, which says film made and flown to Germany. I always suspected that, right? We heard about video cameras being present and film cameras but nothing was ever mentioned about what was filmed and or photographed. But here it states that a film was made and flown to Germany.
Yeah, that was always the rumor. The thing is, who gave this briefing? So somebody would have been the person describing the story. It may have been John Alexander, because the story was John Alexander was involved with the briefing stuff. He showed up there, and so it'd be interesting to find out whether Oak Shannon remembers, or who maybe someone else will come forward and tell us who actually gave this briefing. Who's the one that said there was a film flown to Germany? Because that was the rumored story, was that the plane arrived from Germany and they loaded all the film on there and took off with it.
Were you surprised that Oak Shannon spoke, and did an interview?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. Yeah, I was.
I was too.
I know he was being approached by a lot of people, and that's the same thing that's going to happen here. Is once these names become public, people are going to start going after him. And Oak Shannon's probably as you know, the comment he made today. I don't know how this is going to play out, and he's probably going to get all sorts of requests for interviews now. And I sort of pity him, because this is not something he really wanted. This was not his game. He sort of got stuck in the document, and he sort of got stuck with these notes coming out and stuff like that. And I see his place as very important in history. I don't think he really sees it that way.
Let's get to this Bobby Ray Inman. And before we get there, as I scroll down, here's Cash Landrum, the organizational chart, which
here's this thing with the president, where they've got the where they get authority. So they got Keyworth, like get authority. Keyworth was the science advisor to Reagan. Scroll up a bit. So Keyworth was the Reagan's right there. Say get authority. So they're trying to get authority for their plan. And whether it was Keyworth said no. Keyworth was the science advisor to the president. Poindexter was the national security advisor to Reagan. It looks like he said no. The P is the president, said no. VP, no. And then Dr. Cooper, I don't know who that is, said no. And then maybe was Don Kerr. And I can't remember his position, but that's what you're going to see is people are going to grab these names, and they're going to realize these guys are still alive, and they're going to go for interviews. And we're going to start to learn who these guys were, why they were in the meeting, what do they know about UFOs? Because these are guys at the top secret level. These are not guys who are interested in the subject. These are guys who had information that were brought into these meetings to try to put it all together.
Now, I'm going to scroll down to the list of names that was at this meeting. And if there's something that but here's attendees and others. Me, which is...
that was the funniest part when he said, when he got asked the question, would that me be you? And he said, yeah, something like the effect, that me could be me. It's like he sort of, that's me.
So Bill Wilkinson from the CIA.
Yeah, I don't know this name. I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
Hal McConnell was the guy that rumored to have leaked it to the New York Times.
From the NSA.
NSA, yeah.
John Alexander.
First Double Mind, everybody knows that one.
BDM. Yeah. Hal Puthoff, Jack Houck. Ed Speckman from INSCOM.
Yeah.
Bill Souter from McDonnell Douglas, a no name from the BDM.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep. And what is the USDRE?
I had looked it up. USDRE.
I tried to find it today too as well.
No, I had it, but it's like, whatever. But it's
okay.
So the guy's name is unknown. Somebody will figure it out. I guarantee you, within a couple of days, you're gonna know who the guy is.
Ralph Freeman, no association, and then of course
he's a new guy. McDonnell Douglas. You have the two. That's where Lou is making this reference to. It was if you have hardware, was it evenly divided between all the aerospace contractors? That was that idea. So here we have McDonnell Douglas, Bob Wood, and Lockheed. And it seems like there's more people from the Lockheed and the Jansen guy and this Don guy. I'd never heard of them before. Ron Blackburn. I always pointed out to people. There's a very interesting interview by Jerry Pippin. If you look at Google search Jerry Pippin and Ron Blackburn, there's a fascinating interview that Jerry Pippin does with Ron Blackburn talking about alien hardware and his inventions and his patents. It's a fascinating interview.
Again, from Lockheed Skunkworks, I would assume. Mill Jensen and, again, Don Kemble. And then Gary Wright said to McConnell, 9 months, 30 to 40 solid sightings in Alaska. Right? They named the island here. Most toward Alaska, some to the USSR. This is before the fall of the Soviet Union. And then back to the psi aspect of this that you mentioned earlier, an Israeli book about
Soviet work being done, ahead of us.
But Israel is ahead of them!
Exclamation mark.
Yep. Okay, list of who we have contacted, security, possible task, and again, develop theories. I always thought was pretty interesting. And then I want to get to there's Bill Sauter, McDonnell Douglas. Here's the organization and the research plan. And now. Database, theory, sensors, samples. We got Jacques Vallée's name right here.
And he's now doing this whole thing by using artificial intelligence to go through the data so you can get the patterns. And Vallée's now working on that. So that's been extended to this day. They've actually started to develop the database thing.
Now, were you surprised to see Tesla's name here?
Well, that's again one of the rumored stories that all the people on the high levels were interested in Tesla and what happened to his material. I think there's even a reference to they were looking for Tesla's material and they couldn't.
Yeah. You caught that. It was just it's further down in the notes.
Yeah,
but and it was the way that what Tesla's files were called. We'll get to that. It escapes me right now. But here we go. More dollar signs. And I keep referencing this. This was in, wait a minute. Where's the Bobby Ray Inman?
I think it's higher up. It's just a single page. That was one of the ones I put on the internet some time ago, just the page to... I thought it was the most interesting part of the whole thing.
It's
a page all by itself. That's all you have is 2 lines on the page. So it's simple to find. There's nothing except for that. No, maybe it's down, maybe. So
did I? No, I'm at the end.
Oh, the Iranian jet. Yeah, it must be here. It's above there. I think it's the next page up. Here. No,
that's Woodbridge.
Okay, I can describe what's on the page. If you miss maybe Kirk. This is the Richard Doty sighting. I'm pretty sure. And take a look at what they say. Many mistakes in the report. Don't take too seriously. I'm pretty sure that August the 8th, 80. I'm not 100% sure was the Richard Doty sighting or report. Cuban intercepts. That's one that Stanton Friedman tried to get.
Here it is.
Major engineering. This is the most interesting part of the whole document, and that was that it appears that they had a discussion. The way it seems to work, that they had, like in the morning, they would discuss cattle mutilations, then they discuss this, and you'd go from these different. So they brought up major engineering project, and the only thing under there was Bobby Ray Inman's name. So it was a topic of discussion. And that's all they had. And Bobby Ray Inman was the SAIC. Richard, Greer always talks about SAIC was a key component to this whole cover-up thing. And Bobby Ray Inman, whether he was a contractor or whether he worked for SAIC or whatever it was linked to SARC. And Bobby Ray Inman's name is interesting because this is 1985. In 1988, the rumor was around that Bobby Ray Inman was the MJ-12 guy. He was the guy that was in charge of the remote viewing. And that's when Bob Exler went. He got the business card. He went to the there was a conference at the Institute for Defense Analysis where Bob McGuire came from, and he met Bobby Raymond, and he said, "I'd like to meet MJ12." And that he had this discussion, and then he had the phone call with Bobby Raymond, where he's talking to Bobby Raymond about crash flying saucers and MJ12 and all this kind of stuff. And that ties into the Wilson leak document, because the whole thing hinges on this fact that the Wilson was briefed by Greer and Admiral Miller and Stephen Greer and Edgar Mitchell in 1997 about the whole fact that you're being snowed and you're in control of this project and you don't have control of it. And that's when Wilson starts to look. And if you've heard the interview, Greer does an interview with Admiral Wilson, and Wilson tells the whole story in this interview. And he says, when we left the room, the Wilson's office, the Wilson's assistant said to me, "You know that MJ12 you're talking about? We know all about that group, but we here at the Joint Chiefs for the Intelligence do not have a need to know." That's what Miller said he was told as he walked out of the room. So again, you have this connection between Bobby Ray Inman and the MJ12 thing. And there was another story told where Greer told the story that Goldwater had phoned him. Goldwater had said to Stephen Greer, "So who's running the program?" And he said, "Bobby Raymond's running the program." And Goldwater said, "Well, really? He's my friend. I'll phone him up." And so Greer says, "Yeah, phone him up and tell him." And I actually found, I have one of the collections I have the entire collection of Goldwater's UFO files, 190 pages, all the people he talked to and stuff. I've got the whole file. And one of the letters describes the fact that he phoned Bobby Ray Inman, and it mentions Stephen Greer's name. And Stephen Greer tells the story that Goldwater, who was head of the intelligence for the Senate, his daughter had said, "I was there when my father made the phone call. He phoned Bobby Ray Inman. I have never seen my father so shaken in his life." And he never talked about UFOs ever again after that call with Bobby Ray Inman. So Bobby Raymond's a key figure in ufology. He's a mysterious figure and an interesting figure.
Yeah, for those that have been researching this subject over the last 4 or 5 decades, Bobby Ray Inman's name is central in all of this. And I'm growing up, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, and I'm looking at these documents, Grant, just like everybody else is. And over again, there was Bobby Ray Inman and his comments about this. And this to have this pop up in this meeting in 1985,
top secret meeting,
extraordinary. Yeah. Does this confirm all of the rumors about Bobby Ray Inman that have gone back to the 1960s, 1950s, probably? Bobby Ray Inman.
Yeah, Bobby Ray Inman, who was apparently a 4-star admiral at 49 years old.
That's right.
But it may be that they just knew the rumor, that they didn't really have anything other than, we've heard Bobby Ray Inman is running the thing, and they didn't know any more than you and I. But that may be what this means as well. But either they knew the rumor, or they discussed Bobby Ray Inman running this major engineering project.
Now, in closing, where do we go from here? This is obviously a lot of analysis needs to go into both of these packets of notes in reviewing the names and so forth. But where do we go from here, and what does this do to support the Admiral Wilson Davis document?
Well, I think it's going to be an avalanche of researchers who are really good. I mean, even Giuliano Marinkovic has actually linked all this stuff into, he's got the whole index of all the Wilson leak, all the briefings, all the interviews, all that stuff. He's all linked it all together. This is already linked in there. So you see these people are already working on this. They're putting it together. There's some really smart people in ufology. I used to say, we used to have this joke, that everybody was old in ufology. And then the one guy was asked, "Do you have an old seniors discount for getting into the UFO conference?" So the guy said, "If I had a seniors discount, everybody get in for discount." And it was the idea that there was no young people. But I actually can say there are a lot of young people that I highly respect in the UFO community who are really smart and who are going to rip this thing apart and you're going to see all sorts of revelations from this in terms of the names and how it fits together. I think it's all over. I mean, especially if they have got immunity for witnesses. It's over. It's game, set, match. This is over. If you get these people in a public hearing and you get guys like Eric Davis, who I knew, and I knew who he was talking to. He was talking to people higher than Wilson. I knew who he was talking to. I knew what this guy's a former intelligence officer. He's not a stupid guy, and he can't lie. You get these people in front of Congress in an open hearing. It's game, set, match. It's over. The cover-up is over. And that's what I saw when I first saw the document. And I'm more convinced now that that is basically over. They're using the Wilson document to track this fact that the people have been scammed. They've been running this program without congressional oversight, and they're going to get to the bottom of it. They realize they've been had, and it's unlike anything in U.S. politics. It's totally everybody's on board. It's not one party versus the other party. This is one thing where everybody's talking on the same song sheet, and I think it's over. I mean, personally, myself, I think it's just a matter of time.
What is Eric Davis next? Does he need to step up?
Well, he's got the security clearance. He's working at aerospace, and that's what I asked somebody, and they said, "Oh, everybody's at aerospace. Anybody in NASA is with aerospace." So he's got this contract. He's got a family. He's got a job, and I think that I've heard the rumor that people have talked to that he said, "Yeah, if he was given immunity, he would talk." And that's all I think it takes. I mean, Eric Davis knows, maybe Hal Puthoff knows the most, but Eric Davis, you have no idea what this guy knows. I mean, I knew him, and I knew him at the time when the Wilson leak thing broke. It may have been exactly the same time. I knew him back at that early stage when he was laid off by NIDS. He is an extremely smart guy, and he's aggressive. He's like me. I've always seen this thing as a chess game. I'm here to win. I'm here to figure out how this thing works. I'm not here to make money or do anything. And Eric Davis is the same way. He's relentless. He has contacts, and he's just trying to get this story, and he's putting it together. And he has a tremendous amount of material, and he's not going to hold back. He's not going to cover. If he's given immunity, he's going to stand up there and say this thing's for real. He's going to tell you where the stuff is. He's going to tell you exactly how I heard some stories that they told me back in the day, which I won't repeat, but I mean, they know a lot more than what you think they know.
Richard Dolan went out as far as he could a couple of years ago and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm going to quote him, that this was the UFO document of the century. That's pretty close to, he took a lot of criticism,
but people always forget that Richard Dolan was shown 2 pages of the document by one of the key people. And he knows who the key person was that showed him the document. And when the document was leaked, he phoned the guy and he said, "What do you say now?" And he said, "Oh, I guess the toothpaste is out of the tube."
That's
so
right.
When I know the story, we know there's more to this. It's not just a document. This is a document that was shown, 2 pages were shown to Richard Dolan 10 years ago. And when he described it on your show, there's no doubt he was talking about the document. That is game, set, match, because it proves that these guys had the document 10 years ago, and the document's real, and these guys are all involved. So that's the important thing, that Richard has that confirmation before the document became public. He was talking about it.
You just mentioned it, so I'm just going to expand on it just a little bit. Richard said, I made the phone call, right? I called the guy, and I know who, Richard called.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, the statement, the toothpaste, right? Statement from this individual is mind blowing, and for Richard, that is part of the, as he's doing all of this research, and he is as black and white and as pragmatic as anybody that I know, right? It's just about it's about the facts, and when he said to me, "Church, this is a real document, and this is why." Well, I've got to go with that, because I will never say anything. I've asked Richard to, you got to, who cares at this point? Just come out. No, he's got relationships, and he's not going to blow that relationship. But Richard knows what he was told, and that's good enough for me, Grant.
Yeah, and he gave me that assurance early on, because, I mean, I was pretty sure, but I didn't have absolute proof. But when I heard Richard tell that story to me in confidence, I said, "Oh, okay." And that's why Richard never looked back when he got all the criticism. Remember when we first came out, and he just looked the other way and said, tell him to go to hell. Like he knew, and I knew that this was for real, that we never worried about it being a hoax or we were being taken or whatever. Because if you know who the guy was, you'd go, oh, okay, and now I understand what's going on here.
What a great day. What a great conversation. And thank you, Grant. Look, going back 3 years ago with the look on your face, you were scared and I totally understand, but look where we are today.
Yep.
All right. So just thank you for everything, my friend. Have a great week. You're going to be extremely busy. And I have the feeling we're going to circle back in a couple of weeks and we'll have more developments on all of this. Thank you so much. My best to Nicole. Thank you. Melinda Leslie is saying that I need to call her right after the show. I'm going to do that as well. And
you'll be up all night.
So are you. Grant, thank you so much, my friend. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Grant Cameron. This is truly an explosive development. We're going to follow up on all of this throughout the week. Tomorrow night, I want everybody to understand what I'm going to do. For those of you out there that are not familiar with the Wilson Davis document, that's fine. Tomorrow night, I am going to do a complete show on the Wilson Davis document. I'm going to walk all of us through it. And it will be a clarification on everything that was discussed tonight with Grant. And then on Wednesday night, Richard Dolan is going to be here to give his insight. You know, he's doing research. He probably did his show tonight, or maybe he's doing it tomorrow night over at Richard Dolan Members. Again, on all of this, he said to me earlier today, he goes, dude, this is all I'm talking about this week. It's going to be amazing. And so we're going to be doing that Wednesday night. And then Thursday night, of course, is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Wow, what a show tonight. What a fantastic show. I'm looking at myself. This camera is pretty good. Yeah, I didn't really take a look tonight. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I've got that dial. I don't have to touch it anymore. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. It's going to be a heck of a week here on Fade to Black. Again, thank you, Grant Cameron. What a perfect conversation tonight. And he has been at the center of all of this for a very long time. This is his week to shine for sure. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Wilson Davis, 2.5-hour deep dive special right here on Fade to Black. Stay tuned for that. Wednesday night, Richard Dolan. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.